I am muted. I am muted. Great observation. Great observation. I was muted. Anyways, Nat, it's real good to see you. Shannon, lovely to see you. And Graves, I was questioning whether you were driving home, because that is usually what you're doing, or if you were already home. If you had beat us tonight and made it home already. Because I feel like we normally get you en route. Yeah, just give it a second, Lily. The audio will come through. YouTube is delayed. YouTube is delayed. I was muted for a few minutes. And now we should be good. We should be good. I see the fancy volume button, or volume meter, matching my voice. So I think we are all good. Sound should be there. Guys, let me know if the sound is still not there. Because now from my end, it's good. I was muted. I'm not muted now. While you guys wait, do the YouTube stuff. Hit the like button. I don't ever say that. And it just came across my mind. So let's do that so that we get new people in here. Because that's the goal. That is the goal. More and more new people, more and more new opinions, and people to bounce things off of. That is what we want. More than anything. That is what we want. So do the YouTube stuff. When we end the stream, if you think about it, come back and leave a regular comment, because the live stream chat is different for the algorithm than the regular comments. So if you think about it, when the stream is over, pop in again real quick and just throw an emoji in there or something. You know, play the game. Cheat the system. All right, so let me get the Discord link up here. That is not a Discord link. That is a wiki link. And I can't edit it because of the emoji thing. Are you kidding me? There we go. There we go. Let's try that again. It's as if I was tech illiterate or something. Try again. There we go. Okay. All right, we should be good. We'll roll here in just 1 second. So tonight, what we are doing is, if you were not with us on, I think we decided Sunday, or no, it was Thursday, last Thursday, we decided. So tonight, we're going to be decrypting scripture in a way that is very different than probably anything you've ever heard, ever. So it should be very interesting. Ghostgate, as you all know him in Discord, has some really, really wild, really cool information that I believe he's kind of independently gathered over the years. He'll come in and explain more of that. He has not arrived yet. So as soon as he gets here, we'll pop him on and then we'll get rolling with stuff. But we have some visuals. So if you're just listening, you may want to come back. But I'll do my best to try to explain like what we're looking at. So anybody who's listening now or listening later, you still can kind of understand what is happening. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Just waiting for Ghost right now. Anybody who is interested in coming on to speak, just remember that is available. There's Ghost. That is always available. All you have to do is come into Discord, and that's not gonna be able to show you. Give me 1 second. Ghost is here. Ghost, jump in the voice channel with me whenever you're ready, man. No rush. No rush. I'm gonna do the old Discord thing here real quick anyway, so you got time. All right, so if you have any interest in coming on to speak, just remember, all you need to do is come into this channel in Discord. The red dots. It says streams and lives. There is only one channel in there. It says event voice, and then you will see Ghost and I in there now. So all you need to do is come on in there, and then just mute yourself until we let you know to unmute yourself. And then you're welcome to ask questions, add input if you see something differently. Like this used to be a group discussion on Thursdays. And somewhere along the way, it became me giving a monologue, which I hate. That's not why I'm here. It's not what interests me. I'll go teach class if I want to do that. I have no interest in doing that. So anybody who's down for it, jump in the voice channel and then, join the conversation. We're going to really try to start pushing back in that direction because it was a hell of a lot better when that was the format. We used to have, 6 to 12 people in there. Everybody was talking, taking turns, giving input, sometimes playful, kind, arguing. That's what we need. That's what this is all about. Otherwise, it's just me complaining on the internet, and I can do that without doing it this way. There are easier ways for me to complain on the internet. So I highly encourage anybody who's willing or able to join the Discord voice channel. I see Mystic in there now. You're lovely. It's great to see you, Mystic. So we'll see. But we're going to really start shoving everybody in that direction. Because if this continues to be me giving a monologue, I honestly have no interest in doing it. So it'll be something I'll have to look at. And if we can't get more people to come on and talk like it used to be, then we may shut it down. It's not why I'm here. So let's see. I've got all your stuff. Are you... Try to talk. Unmute yourself. I want to make sure you're coming through.
Hello.
Beautiful. Okay, I think we're good.
Sweet.
Turn you down in my ears. TikTok, go to YouTube. Same username. Get off TikTok. Especially on a night like tonight. Get off TikTok. All right, so let me see. Boom. Now, in a second, give YouTube a second because it's delayed, but you will see some images pop up here. So, Ghost, is there one that I should put up first of just the slide? So the first 4 here.
Maybe just, I guess you could start with the Christian one.
Is that, let me see, a Greek perspective, a Christian perspective. Okay, now, do you want me to just read this and then you kind of explain more? Do you want to explain and read yourself? What are you thinking?
Yeah, you could go ahead and read it and see if anyone has a question.
Go from there? Cool.
Sure.
All right, so this is the Christian perspective. So what is the 14 in reference to? Right? Or is that Ezekiel, the verse?
Yeah, that's
gotcha.
Ezekiel 28:14.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is Ezekiel 28:14 through 16. It says, "You were the anointed cherub, choosing blessing, who cover." So are the brackets are you, right?
Yeah, the brackets are me basically translating what anointed cherub means.
Okay, cool. So let me start over. So we're verse 14. The verse says, "You were the anointed cherub," and he's got a note here that says "chosen blessing," who covers, note, electromagnetic shield. "I establish you. You were on the holy mountain or big rock of God. You walked or traveled back and forth in the midst of fiery stones or magma." Verse 15, "You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created till iniquity or malfunction was found in you." 16, "By the abundance of your trading or energy exchange, you became filled with violence, explosions within, and you sinned or missed the mark / malfunctioned. Therefore, I cast you as a profane thing out of the mountain or big rock of God, and I destroyed you. O covering cherub, top or best blessing, from the midst of the fiery stones or magma." Now, should I finish reading the rest of the slide, or should we kind of break that down first?
We could probably break that down.
Okay, so just, I guess, kind of explain where your notes are coming from. So in 14, you were the anointed cherub. Your note is chosen blessing.
Okay. So yeah, and in a lot of these notes, I put question marks after it because I'm like, I'm not, sold on it. I'm just that could be a translation. Seeing everything through this lens of how the planet works. I think that's what most religion is trying to explain, or most mythology is trying to explain how the planet works and how it relates to our life and death and resurrection. So that's basically the lens that I'm looking at everything through. And when I kind of develop this, I go back and read scripture, and it makes more sense to me. And not only scripture, like when I go back and read a lot of mythology, it makes more sense to me. But it could just be my own private thing. And I hope it's not, because if it is, I know there's a lot of people out there that get upset with private interpretation. And I'm really not trying to sell this as in like it's absolutely the truth, but I find it very compelling. So
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, that makes sense. So if you were to try to sell it, it's funny you just said that because I was going to ask you to give me a sales pitch. If you were going to try to sell this to somebody and, not sway them or indoctrinate them or whatever, but let's say you were more confident than you are or seem to be. You're super confident and you want to share this with somebody and, maybe somebody's real close to you. You think they'll get it if it's explained to them in, a sort of way that's simple. How would you pitch this concept to somebody? If you had to, in the most simplest way, mainstream Christian, never looks at depth of anything, just listens to something on Sunday and then goes about their life until next Sunday. How would you go about kind of trying to pitch this to them?
Well, I would first ask them a question and say, why do you think Jesus chose to teach exclusively in metaphor? Because that's what it says. It says he only taught in parable.
Yeah.
And then we would have to go over what is a metaphor and things like that before I could say this means that. Because this meaning, I could take a verse in scripture and say, this is what it actually means. And they will say, how do you know? And it really boils down to what is a parable? Why are they useful? What is a metaphor, etc.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. Okay. All right. Oh, go ahead.
Sure. Well, I was just, I don't know, maybe I can say that later. I was going to say that metaphors and analogies wouldn't even be possible in a universe that didn't have fractal order. Because nothing would be like anything. Everything would be chaotic and there would be no pattern. So the only reason metaphors and analogies exist is because there are ordered patterns and categories.
Yeah, sure.
You can place things in categories. If we didn't have categories, we couldn't have metaphors, and therefore we couldn't really know anything in the way we can now. We can test things, we can demonstrate things, we can repeat things, experiments. So yeah, going to the Ezekiel 28, well, the reason I came to this whole Earth thing, this whole planet magnetic field thing, is because of a series of dreams I had that I couldn't really comprehend at first.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what they meant, and that's what started me looking into this stuff. Because it's you do school and you know that there's a magnetic field, but you kind of learn about it and never think about it again. And so these kind of dreams I had made me look into this, and that's where I started to see connections.
Interesting.
I guess.
Would it
make sense?
No, it does make sense. Would it be simple for you to try to explain the dream? I know sometimes that's really hard to do, so you can definitely say no. But would you be able to articulate the dream and what that kind of launching pad was like?
Yeah. The dream actually kind of progressed a little bit. So the first time I had it, I'm basically, my perspective and point of view is almost like I'm floating in outer space and I'm just kind of viewing something. And it looked like a bright light shining on to what seemed like a black basketball or some type of sphere. And it was casting a shadow behind it, and in that shadow I had this feeling of there are bad things that live there.
Yeah.
It was just like a gut reaction. And that was it. That was the first one that and then it progressed past that to where I started to see the black sphere as Earth, and I can't even remember how I knew it was Earth, but I felt that was Earth.
Yeah.
And I started to see a pattern, am I looking at the solar system? I don't know what this is. I couldn't see other planets. It was just these two things. And that kind of got me acquainted with the Simsum or contraction concept that I never heard about before then.
Yeah.
We've covered that a little bit before, so I don't want to retrace, but so that's pretty much what got me started looking at the whole magnetic field thing.
Okay. Okay, no, I mean that makes sense to me. So I guess for anybody who wasn't here, the symptom, just a very quick, wiki example here is a term used in Lurianic Kabbalah to explain Isaac Luria's doctrine that God began the process of creation by contracting. So it's this theory of contraction in order to allow for a conceptual space in which finite and seemingly independent realms could exist. This primordial initial contraction, forming a halal hapanyu, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but vacant space into which new creative light could beam, is denoted by general reference to the Tzitzum. So it's a strictly Jewish concept, right? At least in origin.
In origin, I would, I mean, it's mystic Judaism. It's not like,
right.
I don't think the the Pharisees agreed or even knew about that.
I'm sure.
And it's logical in the sense that if God is everything, then it would stand to reason that he would need to create a sort of thing that isn't him to interact within. It's like it's an experience thing. It's almost like he created a little video game to like have fun with or something. It's strange to me, but it seems to be that's what would be required to happen because we're here. So I don't know.
Well, I guess maybe, why do you think that's the only way? Why, if that's what you think, maybe that's not true.
Well, I don't know if it's the only. Well, if God is everything, and he would almost need, in order to create an other that isn't him, he would need to create a sort of quarantine zone that we call the universe to inhabit through layers to reduce himself to the point where we could even perceive him to begin with. Because he's everything.
Yeah.
And we're not him, at least on that scale. So it would stand to reason that he would need to create a sort of structure to interact with us within, because we aren't where he is. And that's what the filtration talk that I gave before is kind of based on.
Yeah.
It's transforming electricity almost, reducing it down to where it's manageable so that we won't explode basically on sight.
Yeah. No, I track with it. And then after we had that conversation, a few weeks ago or whenever it was, I dove a little bit more into some of that stuff, and I'm starting to grasp the concept more, and I definitely see it as like a good theory. I guess I personally, and then we'll go back to the verse. Otherwise, we're just gonna ramble forever. But I get stuck with this like that still requires rules. Like for that whole concept, the Tzitzum, everything, it requires like still maybe what would equate to like scientific law here in a way, not perfectly, but in a way where like there's constraints, there's confinements, like. There are rules around those concepts. So it's my freaking question always is why? Why is that required? Like what real indications do we have outside of our reality would indicate that any of those rules would exist, that they're necessary, that God would have to kind of jump through these hoops to set things up in that way because we're not him? Like I guess, do you have a good answer for that for you personally? Because that's where I get stuck with any theory like this, is why? Why is that necessary? Because I feel like we're still trying to interpret these types of things from like, and granted, an expanded human mind, but still like within a human conceptual understanding. And I struggle with that.
Yeah. I mean, so when you say our reality, would you count the very edge of the universe as our reality? Because I would.
I don't know.
God the Father exists somewhere else. Because, okay, right here on planet Earth, gravity and electromagnetism would seem to interact in the same way that it does on the edge of the universe.
Right.
Because the universe kind of has a uniform way to it. But as far as rules go, I mean, God loves rules, apparently. He, the 10 Commandments, this and that. Our body follows rules, our anatomy. Everything just kind of works according to a rule
for us. So I have
Yeah.
no issue there. It's not an issue, but where I get stuck logically, I guess more spiritually, is within our our physical world, our understanding, what we're able to literally conceive. I personally believe God is completely outside of that. So that's why I get stuck in this position of like, all of this is a total waste of time, because I think there's no world in which we ever have any understanding of why things are the way they are, how they function truly outside of what we can conceive, because that is within our conception. I think God lies outside of human conception, and that's my personal belief, is like, that's why religion is so messy, but at the same time, that's why religion is seemingly very congruent across the board. Studying all the major world religions, they're all super similar, and we've talked about that a lot. But I think it's all humans in different cultures, different demographics, trying to understand something that is literally impossible for them to ever understand. And I just like you, I would never like try to push this on anybody or teach them it, because it's totally just my weird thoughts in the middle of the night. But I think God is totally outside of all of this shit, like entirely, to the point that there's no rules. Like, for me to think like God has to set the earth up in a certain way and have people be a certain way, and I get that he likes rules for us and for our world. I totally get that. Just like kind of you gave the video game example, a coder creates a video games and it's very constrained. It's very constrained. Anybody, like I did some coding back when HTML was the thing, and it's all very refined. It's very restrained. But me as the coder, I'm way the hell outside of that. And if the code, the HTML could come alive, it would never be able to conceive like what my reality is like. It's completely separate. So I personally struggle with that, like understanding that, how we would ever conceptualize like how God goes about doing what God does. I struggle with that. I have a hard time.
So when we write code, we're still using principles that we learn from nature.
True.
So fractals are the sort of fingerprint. Okay. So would you, I'll jump to something else to kind of try to answer what you asked. Would you say it is ethically and morally acceptable for what we would consider a normal person to date, marry, and maybe procreate with someone who, say, has Down syndrome?
Whether it's ethical or not?
Yeah.
I mean, yes is the correct answer.
So it is ethical to basically have a normal relationship for a normal person to do that with a Down syndrome person?
I mean, it depends. I'd say it depends. I get what you're saying. I think it would depend on the individual. I mean, there's a spectrum of Down syndrome. I mean, if somebody's completely unaware, like can't understand what's actually happening, then you may be in kind of a peculiar position. So possibly not, possibly yes.
Well, I mean, I can use the example of like a child or even a dog. Like my point is, God is not going to have a relationship with entities that cannot comprehend him, because what's the point of that? And if God is love has rules. There's a definition to it. If God is the logos, there is logic. Mm-hmm. And logic relies on rules. So at least because the only other option would be God is chaos. And because chaos is a lack of rules or a lack of patterns.
Yeah.
Patterns require rules. Like, I don't think we can escape rules.
No.
Now, what are those rules is the question.
But that's us. Still. I totally get that, and I 100% agree. I don't think there's rules for God. I guess because for me, theologically, if you apply rules to God, it strips God of everything Christianity teaches, which personally I have no issue with, because I don't adhere to Christianity. But this whole idea that God is basically borderless and he can do whatever, whenever, however, perhaps the Bible is explaining that within the context of our world, our reality, and not the context of God actually as a being or an entity. But I think if God himself, outside of the scope of humanity, has borders around him, then he's not what the Bible teaches. Unless what the Bible teaches, like I said, is within the constraints of our world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think if God has borders around him, it's borders that he conceived of in order to interact with us. Like,
Right.
there has to be some kind of border in order to interact with us because we're not him.
Totally. So the rules
and
would be for us still, though, right? So he is borderless himself.
He is borderless himself. That's why the Ein Sof, the white light that's outside of the Simsum black dot, goes on forever. That it's a way of portraying that out there, out where God is, the Father, there's no... I think there's still a logic and a will, because if there weren't, we wouldn't be here. He has to have a will to make us.
Sure.
And then he has to conceive of a way to go about interacting with us. Otherwise, what's the point? And I think a lot of the Christian stuff is wrong to begin with, the way they conceive certain things.
Agreed.
You know, but yeah, I mean, I guess we could get back on track as far as the because we really could go on for a while just with Simsum in and of itself.
No, for sure. So maybe we should turn that into something at a later date.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then yeah, we'll bounce back. So, Rodriguez, I do want you to explain the donkey thing though, because I'm just dull, but I'm trying to figure out what that was in relation to. Okay. Revelation says we were created for God's pleasure. Yeah, it's in the YouTube chat. Here, let me read a few of these first before we get too deep into this. Dumbcat said Revelation says we were created for God's pleasure. Rodriguez, creating a framework of what can and cannot do kind of interferes with his sovereignty. Okay, that'll take us back to the Simsum. Exactly, no rules. Let's see. We don't even know how our own bodies work. It's just so bizarre when you think about it. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Mikkel, to love a stranger as oneself implies the reverse. To love oneself as a stranger. That's a good quote, man. That's a good quote. All right, okay, so nothing here relates. So we read, we're like 5 words into it. All right, so you were the anointed cherub, chosen blessing, who covers... and your note there is electromagnetic shield, ?
So yeah, I think what a thing does is more important than what a thing is called. And if something shares the same trait, then we could at the very least say it fits into the same category. So, and that goes back to fractals and stuff like that. So even if that verse isn't talking explicitly about the electromagnetic field, the field is in the same category of whoever is being referenced in Ezekiel 28. If it's a person, if something shares a trait, if we call someone a pig because they're eating like a pig, then that behavior fits into the same category.
Sure.
So that's why I said, chosen blessing. Yeah, because that's what anointed cherub literally means. And it's really vague, but that's actually what it means.
And the electromagnetic shield
covers us and keeps us alive, basically.
Okay.
I'm trying to read the chat and also.
Yeah, good luck. I get lost. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's difficult because I'm still trying to make sense of a lot of what I see too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is like it's like a live study session, man. But no, I mean, I get that. It makes sense. I understand the view. I see like where it's coming from and how you get there. Like, I mean, it makes sense. I established you were on the rock. You were on the holy mountain, and your note is big rock of God. Where's Big Rock? Or is that just reference to the mountain?
Well, a mountain is a big rock.
Yeah.
And the planet is also a big rock. So could the planet be the mountain referred to? I don't know, but it makes sense to me. I'm trying to look up. 1 second.
Yeah, take your time. I mean, that also does make sense.
I saw something today. Psalm 11:1.
Psalm 11:1.
Yeah, that's for some. That was another study I was doing. Hold on, maybe it's Psalm 11:6. Kind of Psalm 11:6. I don't want to ramble.
Should I read it or no?
Yeah, because it kind of pertains to the fire that's supposed to come about at the end.
So upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire and brimstone, and an horrible tempest. This shall be the portion of their cup.
I think it's translated burning wind, but I see that as solar wind because I think the shield is actually going to come down in the end, which would burn the planet.
Yeah, fire and sulfur and scorching wind shall be. I didn't have the ESV up. Yeah, shall be the portion of their cup. Okay.
So, and just really quick for the people who have a problem with the rules thing for God. You can't say God is just on one hand and then say there are no rules. There have to be rules that he conceives of. Otherwise, nothing makes sense. So if God is love, love has rules. Like there is a definition of love.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yes. Outside of everything else that I struggle with, the love and justice, they require confinement of some kind in rules. Whatever word you want to use. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to put God in a box. I'm trying to understand him. And assuming he is understandable, which it doesn't make sense for him not to be. Otherwise, why would he want a relationship? You know, I'm trying to reconcile all these ideas.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's hard. And a lot of it will end up contradicting itself, and then you have to try to figure that out. And a lot of it infinitely regresses, which becomes very difficult too. But I think Rodriguez, it seems like, is pushing back on some of the rules stuff. Rodriguez, I guess I would look at it like this: how justice and love both, like you said, like they absolutely require rules of some kind. Otherwise, logically, it doesn't make any sense. If you go outside of the scope of humanity, kind of like I was saying, and maybe Ghost disagrees with me, but when you get outside of our world, our reality, how this stuff here functions, then maybe justice doesn't exist. But that then would be very hard to try to conceptualize. Then you have to think about what else is out there. Are there other planets with people on them? Are there other universes, planes of reality with people on them? Maybe they're not people. Maybe they're entirely different things. Like I'm saying, that you can't even conceive. They're not human, I would assume. Not alien, perhaps, but like, I always regress to this point of like, as a human, you are literally only able to conceive what you are able to conceive. Outside of that, it's like it doesn't exist. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means you just can't conceive it. So within our reality, justice exists. There's no doubt. I mean, to anybody who's religious, there's no doubt. And to others, mostly too, they just have a hard time explaining it or understanding it. But morality, justice, love, they all absolutely exist. And they absolutely require rules. And if you don't like the word rules, there are other words you could use, but they require structure of some kind. If this, then that. Good, bad. Like,
if this, then that. Exactly.
There has to be.
Yeah, go for it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah, I guess the question would be then, I guess to kind of flip it is it that God is confined to rules, or is it that because we are created in his image, our rules are somewhat created because of like his standards? Does that make sense? So
100%.
Yeah. So for example, justice, right? And I don't really want to get into the politics of this topic, but I know I was watching like the Dahmer stuff with my teenagers who wanted to watch it. Anyways, and then we were kind of talking about homosexuality, and I was just kind of like, isn't it crazy to believe that there's a lot of Christians out there that are extremely anti-homosexuality, that they would actually believe that all of his victims went to hell and he went to heaven. Dahmer went to heaven because supposedly at the end he spoke with a pastor or whatever and got baptized.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that in our eyes, right, that would justify as justice. right? So I think there's even a lot of things that we kind of combat with of what is and what isn't justice.
Well, that goes back to interpretation, and in my opinion, interpretation alone. So there were periods throughout history where homosexuality was absolutely not okay from a Christian perspective. So everybody was kind of on the same page with that. So if everybody believes that's what's being taught from the Bible and that is God's word, then that is justice. So regardless of anything anybody thinks, the reason that has all become messy is because the Bible has become messy. So now we have different interpretations of basically fucking everything in the Bible. So now what is just? Now nobody knows. Because now it's seemingly there's no objective standard anymore. A lot of us still agree on a lot of things, but a lot of us at this point don't. I mean, if you read through biblical literature or other Near Ancient Eastern literature of the time, not everybody, but I'd say way more than nowadays, people in general were on the same page. So justice was justice, at least more so. Say, call it 80%, whereas now today it's like freaking 20%, 30%. So now justice has become confusing. But if we all hold to an objective moral standard that is set, then it's either just or it's not. The problem is nowadays we don't. So I feel like that can be explained relatively easily that way, in my opinion.
No, because if you look at Saul, Paul, whatever, and the stoning of Stephen, right, and how he was involved with all of that, right, and then eventually he repented and then came to know Christ and all these different things. I think there's probably many that would agree at that time that if the man went to heaven, it would not be just.
Based on what, though, would be the question.
Well, stoning of Stephen was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, but still based on what? Why? I mean, we just like
their own beliefs. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Stephen's mom wouldn't be okay with it.
Yeah, but who cares? From a theological point of view, not to be an asshole at all, but like, who cares?
No, I know.
Who cares? So what if his mom is upset by that? She's not the objective standard. Nobody is the objective standard. Like that's kind of the bottom line. Is like that's the trouble of religion. Is we either function off of an objective moral standard, which means it doesn't matter how anybody feels about it. It is what it is. Or we function off of a subjective moral standard, which is what our culture does. Which is what most cultures nowadays do, which is whatever is in right now is
Most
just,
religions.
and whatever's not is not. Even within religion, it's this church is cool with homosexuality, that's just. This church is not cool with it. It's unjust. To me, that's the way I see it. I mean, who cares what people feel about morality? Morality is morality. If it's objective. If it's subjective, then yeah, we can argue about it for sure, and that argument will never end.
And the rules of morality was set up by God. But I think that was kind of more in the framework of humanity. Rules were there to protect us. And that kind of goes into what you were saying earlier, where God himself doesn't actually need the rules, doesn't apply by the rules. That is more something for mankind. And I don't even think our mindset can even grasp any of the concept of what it is he is or is not doing. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that's what I believe as well. In a very simply said, yeah. I think like Ghost said, our world is set up in a certain framework under certain rules in order for it to function the way that it functions, for better or for worse. But I think God is way outside of any of this, like entirely.
Right.
Personally.
Right. And this is a really pathetic example, because I know like in our mind we only see doors 1 and 2, and then there's like this supernatural door number 3 that God gets things done. But I remember years ago when my daughter was really, really little, she used to pray like a lot. And I think she saw something like on the news regarding ISIS, right? And she asked me what it was, and I did my best to kind of explain it to her in like this, preschool type way. And I was like, they don't really like Christian people, and, this, that, and the other. And she's like, oh, no, this isn't good. We got to pray for them. We got to pray for them to know Jesus. And I was kind of like thinking like, yeah, I guess you should do that. But I don't know how that's going to work, because I don't know any Christian that would be, in my mind, right? With my own rules, with my own humanity, I'm thinking, I don't know how that could work logically. And then I think I remember like a week or two after she had prayed, I saw this thing on the news where a lot of the members ended up converting to Christianity because when they were on their way to do something that they shouldn't be doing morality wise, they were flipping through a radio station and they came across a Christian radio station, and they ended up like feeling conviction and repented and came to know Jesus Christ through that. And not to say that that goes against any type of rules, but I guess my point in bringing that up is that it's not something that any of us would have thought of logically, right? So like for me, in my own rules of humanity and whatnot, I just thought like, okay, this would involve a conversation with a Christian, or this would involve, you know, different things like that. But I never would have even comprehended any of that. And like I said, it's a pathetic example. That's like sort of the only thing I can kind of think of that even falls under that umbrella. That makes sense.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying. Yeah. It's a good example. It makes sense. It makes sense for sure. For sure it does. Ghost, do you have anything for this? Otherwise, Mystic wants to jump into, and then we'll jump back into the slide and then bounce around.
I just wanted to drop Deuteronomy 4:19 through 20, and then I'm happy to see what she has to say.
Okay, let me see.
And I won't even like tell you why I said that. You can just read it, and then maybe you'll be like, "Oh, weird."
All right.
Am I she? Deuteronomy what?
19 and 20, right?
No, Deuteronomy 4:19 and 20.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. Hold on. All right, Deuteronomy 4:19 and 20, and beware lest you rise. Yeah, okay, we're in the right version. Raise your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the host of heaven, you be drawn away and bow down to them and serve them. Things that the Lord your God has allotted to all the peoples under the whole heaven. But the Lord has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace, out of Egypt, to be a people of his own inheritance, as you are this day.
Iron furnace just makes me think of the core, but I'm looking for it everywhere, so I'm grasping at straws.
No, I knew that that's where your head was at, actually. Yeah, that's another good example, man.
I think everything has a spiritual and literal, or in physical, I should say, application to it.
I agree with a lot of it.
Many.
Yeah, quite a bit. All right, Mystic, why don't you hop in real quick, and then we'll bounce on the slide, and then we'll come back to the voice.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So, first of all, I am so far from all of this topic, like all of the lore that goes on in the Old Testament. Like the closest that I have is what's taught in like non-denominational churches, and so I'm kind of confused about a lot of this, but I have been like actually thinking about the topic of God in comparison to us, like with the rules and everything. So I kind of like that we're talking about that. In my opinion, I kind of seen God as the coder, and we're kind of like humanity is a computer, you know? And so God can't communicate to us without using our own language, you know, like just as us as people, we can't communicate with the computer without typing code, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's not that God has rules and he's bound by rules. It's that we're bound by them. Like the computer is bound by what the coder types, you know? And so we can only understand as much of God as he's willing to give. Just how like computers can only understand as much about humans and humanity as we code to it, I guess. Does that make sense?
No, that's a really good way of expressing it that I think people will understand. Yes. So thank you for saying that. Yeah,
that's okay. Good. I'm glad that was the right thing, because I was like, I think I'm understanding this the right way, but I just wanted to put it in more simpler terms.
You absolutely are, and thank you, because we need to.
Okay, good.
We need that. We need that, exactly that, because a lot of this is super hard to. It's hard for me to understand and grasp a lot of this stuff. So and this is like, obviously I do this a lot. It's very difficult. Like it's hard and it's infinite. Like it never ends. And there's a million different ways to go about it. But yeah, that's a fabulous way of explaining it. Yes. And I think the only place that falls apart for me is like what we're seeing right now with AI. Because normally you'd say, okay, well, the humans code computers are invented. Computers run on language. They run on DOS. You have operating systems. You have all of these things that humans make. The operating system itself is not aware of you. It's reacting to inputs. That's all. And normally, years ago, I might say, and there will never be a point where the computer ever knows what is happening outside of the computer. I think we're getting into an age where that's not going to necessarily be true anymore at a point, but there will still be some kind of divide and separation unless technology advances wildly. But I think in the case of like God and Earth, and Ghost, tell me if you disagree, but there's more of an infinite separation. Obviously, there's a tie because he wants relationship with people, or at least it seems like he does. Yeah, it seems like he does, for the most part.
I think there is a separation, which is the definition of hell. I think we're in it, but I think there's like a lifeline. And I agree with what Mystic said. It is like he's a coder, and he created the rules to communicate with us with, like you said, you can build a computer or whatever, but you didn't create language. Like language existed before you built the computer.
Yeah.
And numbers existed before that. So it's just, these things were an intrinsic part of the universe for whatever reason. And I think it's because that's the way God made it. The numbers are like a scaffolding for everything else. He had to create numbers first, and then everything kind of comes after that.
Mm-hmm. Because
you can't have an after that unless you have numbers to portray an after that.
Yeah.
In like a chronological, so I don't know. Yeah, just maybe read something. I don't know.
Yeah, here. So we'll just keep going. So where do we leave off? Fiery stones, magma, the big rock. Okay, so the big rock of God. You traveled back and forth in the midst of fiery stones or magma. So
when I say
core.
you, I am personifying, or I'm seeing the that would be the core. The actual magnetic field and the core itself are sometimes interchangeable, kind of in the same way we see God and the Holy Spirit, because I think, so let me talk about fractals for a minute. I think he created everything in a fractal pattern so he could communicate with us and teach us things on our level. So what happens on Earth follows the same rules as what happens galactically, as far as phenomena are concerned. That's why Jesus taught in parables, so he could teach any concept to anyone depending on what they knew. So if he finds a bunch of fishermen, he's going to use fishing metaphors. And the only reason those metaphors work is because it behaves like everything else behaves. I might not be explaining this right.
No, keep going. I mean,
difficult.
I'm with you. I think you're safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't see God as this completely foreign, quote unquote, other. I see God as the top version of us, and we're the bottom version of him. That's why we can understand in a low resolution kind of way what he wants us to understand. Even if we can't see the actual literal aspect of it, we can still get what it means to be fishers of men. We understand what that means. We know we're not going to take fishing rods out and hook people by the head.
Yeah.
And everything follows that logic. So when I do this, how can I tie this to the planet thing? A lot of what is being talked about in Scripture, in my opinion, is explaining multiple things at the same time. And I think one of those things is how the planet works, and also how our anatomy works. That's the more physical aspect of it, but there's also like a spiritual aspect of it that most people will comprehend first before they comprehend the physical aspect of it. I don't know if I explained that right.
No, I get what you're saying, but so explain the part about the physical world and our physical bodies, why do you
and not
think
only
that?
just us, I'm talking nature in general. We can
Sure.
learn so much from just observing. Yeah, Kelsey's right. From just observing nature, we can get it. And God made it that way because he didn't want us to be ignorant. Like, if there were no connection between scales, atomic, human, galactic, whatever, if there were no connection, we could never understand. There would be no reason that galaxies are spiral like everything else, because it would be chaos. Yeah, I don't know. I lost my thought.
That's all right. So, let me think. Hold on. Shit, I just lost mine too. I had a question.
It's kind of overwhelming, to be honest.
It's entirely overwhelming. That's why, like, taking a piece at a time is the easiest. I mean, it's the only way to go about it. But one thing you said, you said you believe that God is like us, like the highest version of us, and we are the low res or lowest version of whatever that is. So obviously you don't mean humanity in any way. You mean spiritually, right?
Yeah, I mean, us spiritual. Well, yes, I mean spiritually, but like, one of the definitions that I have for spirit is it has to be invisible, in some way, and I think our soul is invisible because it's encased in a skull. So invisible doesn't just mean like wispy nothingness. It just means you can't see it. For some reason.
So even something impermanent, because I could crack your skull open and I could see it.
Yeah, but by default.
Sure, sure.
And I think that when it's easy to say God lives in us, but like what really is that?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
What's the mechanism? I think everything has to have a mechanism because God is logical, and there's no such thing as magic. Like, magic is just knowledge and application of knowledge. So there has to be a mechanism in which he can inhabit us and communicate with us. And because you go into church and they say God lives in us and whatever, but they won't explain what that looks like. You know? So,
That's...
you know, that might be a very unpopular opinion, but I think there has to be a mechanism. I don't think it can be something that's vague, because vagaries can't be comprehended. Like, I think God is an objective being, and we are subjective beings.
Yeah.
And we are subjective beings with the goal of becoming objective beings, more like him. Subjectivity is just a low resolution objectivity, in my opinion.
So with the inherent goal, or subconscious goal, or do you think that's a conscious goal? Because I mean, I would probably argue that. I don't think most people walking the planet are consciously trying to become an objective spiritual being. I think most people walking the planet are idiots, to be just totally blunt.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they're out of touch. I think they don't care, or disinterested. And then you get into, you know, is that the workings of whatever evil is related to our world, or is that true free agency and just people choosing not to care? They comprehend that something else is out there. They just don't care to, you know, do what we're doing right now. I mean, if you were to look at statistics for people who actually sat down and dedicated their evening, you know, we spend more hours out of our lives, most people, working than doing anything else. So statistically, the number of people who would sit down in their off time and listen to you or I or Mystic or Rodriguez talk about stuff like this is, I believe, astronomically low. So do you think that desire or goal to become objective, do you think it's inherent and is subconscious until somebody chooses to take a grip on it? Or do you think it kind of chooses them in a way? God chooses them in a way? What do you think the function of that is?
Now we're getting back to Benford's Law. I think that there's just a minority percentage of people that, or we can even explain it like a mouse in a maze. There is a goal, and the goal is to teach the mouse how to do something very specific. And there are like mile markers or checkpoints for this mouse to learn these things. Some mice might not ever learn it. Some might, and they can take a percentage of how many mice learn it, how many mice don't.
Yeah.
And if you extrapolate that out to just the complexities of being human, we are being tested and led down a path to become objective. And the way we're doing that is so complex and varied that like we can't cover it all here today. But the mouse maze is sort of the best way of explaining it to me. Because there is a goal. There is a goal, and God wouldn't create this universe unless he had a goal in mind. Every game has a goal. An objective being would have a goal.
Yeah.
He's not going to frivolously do something.
Sure.
So I mean that's what I think.
No, I agree with that. Let me see. We only see a fraction of the things at animal. Same for colors. We only see a minute amount of all of this.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, true enough. I dare say, Mikkel, we humans, rational sentient beings, are the eventual happening of no being equals God in his mental image, in his mental image. Rational sentient being.
I don't know what that means.
Mikkel, do you mean that like we're a thought of God's, like we're something like a conjuring of the mind of God, or whatever the equivalent?
I do believe that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think we're segregated. I think he made little automatons that can machine learn. That's what I think. But we're infinitely more advanced than an artificial intelligence, it would seem.
Well, our artificial intelligence, yeah, for sure. I mean, at least for now.
I think everything that isn't God is artificial. He artificed us. He made us. He thought about something and then he made it somehow.
Yeah,
I mean, pretend to know.
No, yeah. I mean, technically, yeah, that would make sense. I feel like that would be fair to say. If God is the origin of everything, then yeah, everything would kind of be synthesized from him, an artificial.
Yeah, it would be like a shadow of him in some way because it's his will that's making it.
Yeah.
Because every creator is going to put a little bit of themselves into their work, and someone looking at that piece will be like, "Oh yeah, I can see how you made that because you believe X, Y, and Z."
And see, I agree with that, and this is where I get stuck, man. I agree with that. One side of my brain, and the other says, why would that apply to God? Like we know that from our conception, for our world. We know that creators like to put things within their creation like that of themselves. Why would that apply to God? And again, I agree, but then I wrestle with myself and argue with myself. Why? For what reason would that need to apply then to God? If he's so vastly different, and if we are so wildly small, and we function totally different, why would he feel the need to do that?
I might be like a heretic, but I might be. I don't think we're vastly different. I think we are low resolution versions of him. Just like a baby is a low resolution version of their dad.
Yeah, so that's right. Go back to that though. Go back to that. So
okay.
In what? So just in the invisible, is that? I think that's where we got after I asked you that question. The spiritual is the invisible, and that can look or manifest in a million different ways. But we are a version of God that is just very low res, but we're tied to him in that way. Okay. And what makes you believe that? Like what? Why? Why couldn't he be totally different?
Well, in a way he is, but it's still fractally relevant. He's not going to be so different that communicating with him would be impossible. So right away, we have to have some kind of similarity to interface with him. And when Jesus, you know, there are several verses, I should probably try to find them and write them down, that where he's like, you're going to be like me. That's the whole point of this whole thing. You're trying to be grafted into me. You're trying to be like me. And if Jesus is God, then it's like, wait a second. Of course, God is similar to us or compatible with us in some way, or else we wouldn't be able to do that. In my logic, you know what I mean? Like it just wouldn't, we wouldn't be compatible.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not pretending to know exactly what that looks like, but
yeah, of course. No, I mean, I get it. I get where you're coming from. I always regress to what I've already said 1,000 times. I totally agree with most, not all of it, but the vast majority of everything within this kind of topic. But I always then regress to this point of why do fractals, why do patterns, why does anything need to apply to God? I always get just shoehorned. I get shoved into that corner by myself every freaking time.
So Rodriguez just said something important, and I agree. Yes, we are similar to God. If I said it the opposite way, obviously, you know, everything's chronological. God started first, obviously.
Yeah, you said it. You might have said it reverse just now, but you had said it correctly earlier for sure.
Yeah.
Mikkel put out 1 Corinthians 1:19 and 20. It says, "For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world?"
Yeah. I mean,
I want to be an exegetical asshole right now. I'm going to refrain from doing so.
The wisdom of the world. Yeah, I would say there's a lot of context going on there.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big problem for them. But I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. I end up overanalyzing. I'm not going to do it.
Could you say wisdom of the world could be swapped out for traditions or what?
I think it could. I mean, this is the problem with the Bible, man. I mean, any part of it, you can finagle and do gymnastics and kind of, and not that it even makes it inaccurate. It just makes it like not what was written.
Because the meaning is the same. Just like I did chosen blessing. Like,
yes.
It wasn't written, but that's what the words mean.
Agreed. Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That's more. Or trials. Oh, May, it's good to see you. Or trials make you a stronger person with more compassion, and roaches let you appreciate things like butterflies. Suppose it's all about perspective. I feel like I missed something. Make you a stronger person. Maze, I might have missed something you said earlier. If you want to try to retype that or just explain kind of...
That's me in my comment, because I said there's no way God made roaches, and my ex-husband was kind of being an idiot. That's what the comment was for.
I see it up there. Okay. All right. I'm tracking now. I'm with you guys. Yeah, I mean...
My bad. I'm so...
Great. No, yeah, thanks for clarifying, because I was very confused. I'm 100% with y'all now. Pastora said talking about God is talking about love, and love has a harmonious ecological expression. Everything... God, I hate YouTube chat. It keeps cutting everything off. Everything tends to something to order. Oh, it does. It is just two. Okay, to order, and Ghost explains that order. Yeah, agreed. For the most part, at least agreed.
And going back to fractals, like if God is the start of a fractal, then his will and his way stands to reason that would filter into our understanding, even if it's low res. Because it's holographic. It's like you take one little tiny part of the hologram and you still have the whole hologram, but it's low res. It's blurry, but it's still there. And I think that's how it works.
I get it. I do get it.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily disagree. Yeah. I
just struggle with God being absolutely foreign. I struggle with that.
Well, I mean, there's no way he's absolutely foreign. I just why. It's just so hard from our conception to not try to just jump in one camp or the other. I don't understand why in any way God would himself have to adhere to any of these confinements that we adhere to here. I don't see why God couldn't be completely separate. And I guess on that note, why couldn't he be completely foreign and also completely familiar? Because it's illogical.
Because those are mutually exclusive, and God is logic.
Well,
in,
not
in,
even. No, I would
in
not
our
say that,
world.
because then if he was, we wouldn't need him.
Why do you say that?
Because if there was rules, if there was a formula, then we wouldn't really need him. We would have the rules and the formula to rely on.
But
he is the rules and the formula.
Yeah, wouldn't you say we do
He's
have
the
that
law
with the Bible?
Not always. Not always. Like we've kind of discussed earlier, right? Is there's not, the rules don't completely apply to him. But if we could figure things out and you know, there were certain rules and logic, then we wouldn't really need him. Let's just take an example, right? Like when we're talking about, I think I talked about before, like with healing with the blind people or whatever, and sometimes God used mud or whatever, right? I think the idea is that you have to go to the great physician for the specific prescription for your healing. If there was already a formula, if there was already a script, then you wouldn't even need to visit the great physician, if that makes any sense.
But he is the formula.
What I'm trying to tell you is there's not always a formula.
I think there is. I think we have to discover it.
I think sometimes there is, but either way, you have to pursue him. You have to go to him for your own specific formula for whatever the case may be.
Yeah, but I think I get what you're saying, and maybe I think some of this is more or less miscommunication. So on a personal level, I agree that there's like, if I'm tracking with you properly, I agree that there is
like a healthy interdependence.
Say that again.
Like a healthy interdependence. Sorry.
For sure, and I think it's individualized in some manner. I think like we have objective morality. In my personal opinion, that should apply to everybody. It should be absolute. That's what objective means. Nobody gets to decide or feel a certain way about it, and if you do feel a certain way about it, it doesn't freaking matter because it's objective. But I think that same rule for that in like a personal growth aspect may be different. There may be like, you know, you could go this path, you could go that path. What may be right for me may not be right for you. Objective morality, I don't agree with it in that sense, because that would be subjective. And then I think where possibly, and I could totally be wrong, but I think where maybe you and Ghost are kind of disagreeing, if you could call it that even, is that I think he's saying like the function of the world, how the world works with fractals and patterns and just our environment in general, our reality. I think it does function on rules, and I do believe those rules are God. I start to disagree once we move to like, who is God, where is God, what is God, when we get over there. I totally agree though that like this world functions off of very strict rules. You can break the rules, or you can try. Certain rules I don't think you can break. I think they're going to happen no matter what. But I think God is the rules. And then I think the Bible was him trying to express the rules to us, how things work. What is the function of stuff? What is morality? How are we to treat it? Like, how does this world function? I think the only reason this has become a shit show is because we're not adhering to the rules. And then we decided to make up new rules. And then we decided to argue about the rules. And then it became subjective, and it became about culture, and it no longer became about who is God, what was his design as the rules. Now it's what is our interpretation of the rules. That's totally my opinion of all that. And maybe I misunderstood you, and that was all just me rambling.
I'm writing something down. Fill space.
Yeah, take your time.
So yeah, I agree with that. There's some rules that are, you know, kind of non-negotiable, I guess would be my way of putting it. And then there's other things like in, Ecclesiastes. There's a time for this, and then there's a time for the opposite of this. There's a time for that, and then the opposite of that, you know. And
I mean, there's complexity to life, right? Like there's a time for, and I mean, some people will disagree with this, but there is a time for violence, and there's a time for peace. There are situations where violence, again, in my opinion, some people will push back, where violence is appropriate. There are other times where violence is absolutely inappropriate. And then there are more strict rules, like if I were to smash your head with a 1,000-pound rock, you die. It's kind of a hard and fast rule. There may be some super weird fringe case where someone, you know, is instead in a coma for the rest of it, but it's very unlikely. If I literally disintegrate your head, you no longer exist in this reality. Like, that's a hard and fast rule. So I think there's levels to it and complexity to it and things like that. But I think like the way the world functions and the patterns and things like that, I think those are hard and fast rules. I think objectivity is a hard and fast rule. I think it's just one that we've begun to ignore. And I think the Bible was intended to be the rule book. I mean, half of it literally is rules, like very plainly. These do this, don't do this, period. It is rules. It became complex because of interpretation, primarily. But even back then, Jews obviously failed over and over and over again, had a real hard time with the rules. They were clear. They were impossible to uphold, but they were clear. And then even the early Christian movement, as anybody who's been with us for Bible study, it was chock full of absolute shit showery. It was people not understanding what is going on. It's people understanding what is going on and choosing to break the rules anyways. It's in my opinion, a lot of things happened that were unjust that God did. So then what does that kind of tell us? Like the couple who was struck dead for stealing from the church, because they said that they were going to give the proceeds of the sale of their property to the church. They made more than they thought they were going to. So they pocketed the difference and gave what they had agreed to give to, got caught doing it, were struck dead for it. In most people's eyes, that would be seen as unjust. But God did that.
Right. And then also he's done it. He did it then, right? But Lord knows there's way more now that are probably doing the same thing.
Oh, for
and
sure.
They're not struck down.
For
right?
For sure. So what is justice then? That's why I think it's very that's part of why I have such a problem with the Bible, because it's inconsistent. It's impossible to actually follow.
One thing I will say is one time I was kind of, crying out to God about a lot of things going on with my family and just different things, specifically about justice. And I remember I felt like kind of like a tugging from the Lord to read the book of Habakkuk. And at the time, I had never read Habakkuk. I never really cared to look at it. I think it's one of the minor prophets, and there's like 3 chapters. But the entire thing is a dialogue between a prophet and God about specifically justice. And the prophet kind of asks God, like, hey, why are you withholding justice? And then the Lord replies to that. And then the prophet has another question, and God. So I would kind of encourage others to read that, just because we're on the topic of justice.
Yeah,
because it really helped me a lot.
That's a good suggestion. That's a book nobody reads, man. That's a good suggestion for sure.
Same. I didn't even know until and then I was like, oh my God, that really was God.
It's like the book of Zephaniah. Who has honestly read that book? That's what my daughter's name is. Zephaniah. There's some amazing gems in there. That's why I named my kid after it. But the average Christian, if you said, have you read Zephaniah? They're going to say, what the hell is that? I don't know.
Nice.
So Ecclesiastes 3:1-9 is on the screen. Danny asked that we throw that up, and I'll read that in a second. But Nat said, I still have a hard time wrapping my head around the idea that God changed the rules through Jesus. Makes me think of your criticism of the Catholic Church, that absolute truth changes over time. So that, Nat, that is much more complex. So my criticisms, I assume you're talking about the couple of videos I've done on the Catholic Church and doctrine and changing and things like that. That's very different, because that was human intervention. That's just what they do. I mean, the Catholics change willy-nilly as they please, as they want, whenever they want, and a lot of the time it is highly based on political things and culture. But on the other hand, I'll give them credit. They do hold a lot of tradition, and they stick to it. But that's all human intervention. They chose to do it. They do it. That's all people. It's very different. The difference, I assume, that you're talking about is the very difficult thing of trying to understand God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, and Jesus Christ of the New Testament, who we're told is God himself, that they are one and the same, basically. Justifying the behavior of God of the Old Testament and with what he taught about what is just, what is not just, it seems to almost directly contradict with Jesus Christ within the New Testament. I actually in graduate school before I left, that was one of the probably the longest papers and debates I ever had, was on trying to justify God of the Old Testament and Jesus Christ of the New Testament, because it's very difficult to do based on what they teach, based on how they act, this idea of justice and what is right, what is wrong, how do I deal with creation. It does seem like there was a shift. So I get totally what you're saying, Nat, but I think they're entirely different things. Because one, you're questioning God himself. And the other one, we're questioning a group of people who have proven to be anything but trustworthy, being the Catholic Church. No offense to anybody who's Catholic. I don't dislike Catholics. I dislike the Catholic political system. Okay, the verse real quick, and then Ghost, whatever you wrote down, if you wrote it down with the intention of sharing it with us. This is Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 9. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war for war and a time for peace. I assume that was just in reference to what I had said earlier about violence.
A time for this and a time for that sounds a lot like a cause and effect algorithm.
Yes, exactly. If this,
and there's
then
probably
that.
billions of permutations of what you should and shouldn't do depending on the circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a part of why it's so complicated. Like there's infinite variables that could cause infinite outcomes and then affect other things. It's like the butterfly effect on steroids.
And any complex algorithm looks like a tree.
Yeah.
I put a book in the chat that I had read a while back it's actually one of my favorite books by Matthew Schlimm, and it talks about kind of wrestling with the bizarre things that are in the Old Testament.
Oh, nice.
So,
I did not use that when I was doing what I was doing, so I would love to read that personally, because that's one of my favorite topics. Do you mind when we get off? Can you throw that in the literature section?
Yeah.
In Discord?
There's a literature section.
Yeah, isn't it called literature? Am I tripping? Hold on.
We need an on-topic chat, not just an off-topic chat, so we can continue conversations.
What do you mean?
Like I found
Theology, culture, and news, those are on topic. You mean you want a different topic?
Okay. No, one that actually says on topic. So like if we have resources or further conversations based off of what's happening,
like in this stream?
Topics. Yeah, like for example, remember how the last time I remember you asked me for the sources of that weird sound?
Yes.
And I found it, but I'm like, I don't know where to put that.
Gotcha. Okay, that's actually, we had talked about doing that a long time ago, and I don't remember why we didn't do it, but we're going to do it. So what we'll do, thank you for saying that. What we'll do is we'll create a forum, because a forum allows you to basically start a thread, and then that's the topic, all within one forum. So it'll be the stream forum, and then you would be able to open a new one with the sound from whatever stream it was, or the sound that I was talking about. And then everybody who replies to it is all confined to that one topic. And then somebody else can post a new thread that's about something else from that stream or a different stream, but then it'll all be stream related. I will do that when we get off. Fabulous idea. But yeah, there is the library is basically literature. And that's in the chit chat rooms area.
We need a science channel too.
I know. I was just thinking about that. I'm so sorry. I told you I was going to do it. I'll do that too. Hold on. Let me make a note. Because, we need to do the science one. So we'll do science, and then we'll do the stream forum. Those would be great additions. I'll do those, I promise, right when we get off, both of them. I'll sit in bed and do them before I pass out. Stream forum. All right. Cool. Okay. So... let me see. God, I was concerned that we'd have a hard time filling time tonight. I'm an idiot.
I almost feel like decrypting scripture needs to be like a monthly thing or something.
I was gonna say, yeah, this needs to be like a series. We'll make this a series because we need to jump back in and do the. Actually, let me pull it up here. We need to do the Greek perspective, and then I think you have Norse, right? Yeah, the
Norse is like,
perspective.
I don't think we should do Norse because I didn't explain anything. I just dropped words, and people can look at it if they want to, and then do their own research.
Okay. Well, why? So we covered. Shoot, man, we're gonna have to do a Christian part 2 to cover the rest of this because we're almost 7:30. So we'll do.
And keep in mind, these are just what is that, like 4 verses? Like, dude,
yeah,
I have so many.
I'm sure.
Like,
so this will give you time too. This will give us time to kind of prep as we go for these, and so you don't feel rushed like we got to do it all in one. Nah. So this is the first part 1 of the Christian decrypting scripture, and then maybe once a month we continue. So we'll do part 2, and then we'll do Christian parts until we're done, and then we'll move on to maybe just outside of Christian, and then we can cover Norse. Maybe if you get some more information there, we'll cover the Greek perspective. And then, maybe by then you'll have some other stuff too. And I know you had sent over a bunch of this other stuff that like, I kind of want to hear just why'd you send it? Mm-hmm. How does it relate? I was able to put 2 and 2 together for some of it, but it'd be cool to go through a lot of this stuff too. So this will be part 1 of that. We'll make it a monthly, once a month. So 1 week on Thursday, I won't send out a poll. And then we'll just keep continuing on with this because I think this is really good. Everybody is obviously super interested. This is fantastic. And Mystic and Rodriguez and Ghost 2. But thank you guys for coming on because I hate talking to myself. I say it a lot. I genuinely hate it. Like from the bottom of my heart, I hate it. So I really, honestly, very much appreciate you guys coming on and kind of adding some input here. I think it just adds a hell of a lot more value. And it's fun for me.
Whenever I have the brain cells to talk, I will.
You need to do it more.
This is a lot.
You need to do it more because the way that your very simple explanation was exactly what we needed. Because not everybody's going to understand what the hell we're talking about. Specifically, what the hell Ghost is talking about because he's on a different level with this stuff.
Yeah, that's
100%. He's in the stratosphere
I'll be
with this. Yes, if you could come in, because like I am able to understand what he's saying, and I can express it sometimes, but I have a hard time. It's kind of like reading Hebrew and Greek for me. There's no way I can like say it to you, like explain it, but I can understand what I'm reading. It's very similar, but the way you jumped in and explained it was very, very good. And then your other comment was too. It's like a perfect, simple explanation that is easy to understand, but it's not even like dumbed down. It's just like it was just very articulate, very simple, very easy to grasp. It was phenomenally helpful. So thank you. Don't overthink it. If you have something, just throw it out there. Throw it out. It's always good, Mystic. I miss having you on here. It's always been good.
I don't know. Yeah. Recently, I've been chickening out talking, so.
I know. You need to get over it. Get over it.
I thought what you said made a lot of sense.
It made a hell of a lot of sense. Both comments made a hell of a lot of sense. No, you just get back in the swing, man. I know it's hard, especially when we've not done it for a long time. But even before, man, like all the discussions we had before were real good. Even when you and I did not agree on something, it was real good. They were very good conversations.
Then. No, just kidding.
No, they were good.
I'm probably more likely.
No, they were.
Yeah. I'm more likely to agree with her, and I'm so sorry.
For sure.
I'm on Pacific Standard Time, so I'm always cooking during this time.
No, I mean, I understand. I mean, this is impossible to like do a stream where everybody's, totally available. It's never gonna happen. But we are in talks now about the 3rd stream. So that we'll have that. So, I mean, if you can't make it Sunday, you make it Thursday. If you can't make it Thursday, you make it to the 3rd one. So for people who can't make one, hopefully we can at least do another. And a lot of it is basically going to be stuff like this. We'll have general information and then just try to expand on it in wild differentiations away from what the norm is. Like we got to get away from like the standard way of approaching things. That's what I think is broken.
Hey, Joe, can you quickly explain what the heck is going on Saturday with some movie or something like that? Or is that a group chat thing?
No, thank you. Because I definitely would have forgot. So yeah, well, I'll explain the movie, and then we'll do like anybody has any last words, and then I gotta go put the kiddo to bed. But what we are going to do Saturday is, let me see if am I able to show it. I don't know, but so what we're gonna do Saturday is Discord allows you to hold a stage and the voice chat. You guys, those of you who were here months and months ago when we had bigger group discussions, you're able to like turn your camera on. So it's basically like a big Zoom meeting. Well, something else that it allows us to do is stream YouTube or stream video services into the Discord group. So this will not be on YouTube. So anybody who's listening or watching this right now, this will not be available on YouTube. So if you look for it on YouTube, you're SOL. This will be in Discord only. So if you need to get in Discord, there's a link pinned in the chat, and there's one in the bio of the description of the video, and somebody will give it to you. But it's going to be held in a voice channel on Discord. I'll probably put it in just in like the live stream section. So instead of event voice being the only thing that's there, there will be another one that says like movie night or something. And Saturday, we haven't nailed down the time yet, so I'll get that to you guys by the end of the day tomorrow. But we're going to stream Messiah 2030, right? That's what it is?
Yeah.
See, right? Okay. All right. Yeah, so Messiah 2030, it's on YouTube. I was looking at it today. So it's on YouTube. There's 2 parts, right, Ghost?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a 2-parter. So this Saturday we'll do part 1, and then hopefully next Saturday we'll be able to do part 2. But Ghost, why don't you give like a super quick synopsis of what it is?
All right. It's basically, speaking of fractals, it's showing how the first 7 days of creation are mirrored in the past 6,000 years. Well, the first 6 days of creation are mirrored in the past 6,000 years. So that every day of creation corresponds to a 1,000-year chunk. And within that chunk, there's a lot of prophecies that were going on and events that were happening that correspond back to the first day and second day and whatever day it's attached to. That's probably a complicated way of explaining it, but I would suggest that, if people have the time to maybe go give it a watch or give it a, couple minutes or whatever, just to see what it's like, write down some questions or, to bring to the Saturday. I don't know.
Yeah, no, good advice. Yeah, so
that's kind of how I would explain it.
Can y'all throw it up in the chat whenever Joe starts the on-topic chat for the movie?
What'd you ask to do?
If you guys could throw up the movie in the chat, because he just said, if we could kind of brush up on it and whatnot.
Yeah, so when I make the forum for the stream-related topics, I'll put one in there for Messiah 2030, and you guys can put questions, comments, things you want to stop and talk about before or after, whatever. But yeah, I'll throw that topic in there. I'll make that the first one that actually goes in there. But so we're gonna stream the YouTube video through Discord. So there'll be like an audience of all of us. There'll be a chat panel on the side, so we can talk during it, obviously silently, and then the movie will play. If any like big question comes up, or if you guys give us questions ahead of time, then we'll make a point to kind of stop and then have a quick discussion about it and then continue. So it's possible that the first part of the movie takes us 2 weeks. If we end up stopping and talking, but like we don't want to just, you guys can watch it by yourselves, so there's no reason to do that. But if we all get together and then are able to openly live discuss during the film, we can kind of pick it apart together. And if anybody doesn't understand what's happening, we can try to help or quickly try to research and help. But it can just be kind of like a group study session again. I think it'll be really good. So possibly this Saturday and next Saturday for part 1. We'll see how it goes, see how many times we stop, and then we'll do part 2 after that, and then cut it from there. But I hope periodically we can do kind of like movie nights on Saturdays and stream something that's related to the stuff that we're into. I mean, there's tons of really interesting videos, long form videos about this wild stuff that like we're talking about tonight. There's a lot of it. So maybe we continue to do this, once a month again or something like that. But I think it'd be cool. It'd be a cool thing to be able to do. Technology allows it, so why not take advantage of it? And then the third stream, I know I was kind of telling you guys we'd probably do it on Saturday. I think we're probably not going to do it on Saturday. It's probably going to be another weeknight. Saturday from a handful of you that I've asked after talking to Ghost and Cat about it won't be available on Saturday for it. So I want to make it on a day where people are probably going to be available or more available. So it'll be another weekday. So we'll have Thursday, we'll have another weekday, and then we'll have Sunday night for Bible study. Do you guys have anything else any burning desires, any last stuff before I pop off for the night?
No, I'm good. I'll try to be more organized next time.
I don't think it was disorder. I think this was phenomenal.
It's a hard topic.
It's a super hard topic. I think it'd be hard to try to organize it, especially because I kind of pushed you down rabbit holes, numerous times. So that's on me.
No, it's good, man.
It's good stuff. Yeah, it's very good stuff. All right, cool. Well, give it 30 seconds. Anybody in the chat? Any you guys on here? Just last stuff, whatever, and then we will bounce for the night. Let me see if there's any public prayer in here.
You are still the Discord is still on the screen too.
I took it off. It's delayed. Just give it a second.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good there. I was
Thank you, though. Good looking out. Please do that every time because I fail at that miserably. I'm getting better. With the whole.
You are
figuring it out.
Yes.
We got nothing, so we're good. So I think we're done. So I will.
Yeah, we need to listen to Germ Graves' dream at some point.
I would love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Graves. Yeah. Let's do that Sunday. Graves, remind me. Sunday, 6 p.m. We're picking up just our normal Bible study again. And yeah, Shannon, we don't have any. Otherwise, I would. There's nothing in the public prayer, at least. And obviously, the private prayer is not to be said on the stream. But yeah, Graves, let's do that Sunday. If you just remind me when you pop into the chat, just remind me. And then we'll set aside. I'll cut off a little bit early if we need to. Because I really want to hear that too. I'm very interested. Very interested.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be phenomenal. Okay. All right, I think we're good. I'll post a poll for next Thursday. Ghost, I got you, me, and Kat will figure out when to do part 2 of this.
Sure.
Cool. And then Saturday, I'll let you guys know concrete time. I'll put it in the events in Discord. And then I will, right now when we get off, I'll put the kid to bed, and then I will create the science section, and I will create the stream forum. So the stream topics forum. I think that's it.
Sounds good.
Please, I have a prayer request. Shannon, what's the prayer request? Gimme. And then we got you. You got to throw it in Discord, girl. You know how this works. You've been here since the beginning. No excuse.
I don't know. She's been kind of going through it. So
I know. They've had a rough couple of months, man.
I know.
Just getting hit. Let me see. Yeah, no, Shannon, I don't have anything from you. So if you want to throw it out there real quick, then we'll cover that super fast, and then while we're at it, we'll pray for our disgustingly broken culture. If you want to throw it out there real quick, then we will cover that. And then who's got mad delay?
I think Scott just jumped in and he's listening to Yeah,
got it.
Can y'all hear me? Want to throw it out there real quick?
Yeah. Scott, I just muted you. Scott, you got to shut off the audio that you're listening to. Because it's like feedback. It's running a loop in the chat. I'm going to unmute you now, though. All right, Scott, did you have something, man? You can unmute yourself. Just however you're listening to my voice, mute that while you're talking. We'll wait a minute. I may have been exposed to TB, possibly. My friend's sister tested positive, and she was exposed. And I was in close contact. Oh, man. All right. Yeah, we got you. Yeah, I feel like we haven't prayed in like weeks. So, God, thank you for giving us the ability to be able to do this. It's really, really cool. Tonight was a fabulous discussion that was mind-blowing, to say the very least. Please be with Shannon and Gargar, just in general, because they have massive things going on as of the past couple of months, just getting hit, it seems like, from every side in every possible way. So whatever's going on with the sickness there, with the TB, between, you know, her friend and anybody else who might have been exposed, and herself, obviously, as well as her young child, please just, you know, intervene as you will to try to handle that however it needs to be handled. Make it tolerable at the very least while she struggles through that. God, we also want to pray for all of the wars going on right now, whether that be culture wars, political wars, actual physically violent wars like we've got in Israel and Ukraine and, you know, other places as well that people don't really talk about. Whatever needs to be done, have it be done. We obviously just pray that casualties are at a minimum in every way, whether that be psychologically, physically, just a minimum. What needs to be done is done. What does not need to be done, unnecessary death, mitigate. It's brutal what is happening right now for people who are not completely in tune with it. Our world's in very rough shape. So God, we pray for people, for people's spirits, for people to be in touch with themselves on that spiritual side. We understand that, at least most of us here understand that there is some kind of objectivity with what is right in the world and what is wrong with the world, what is right in behavior, what is wrong in behavior. I pray that everybody here, and then that extends out, but that everybody here has a very firm grasp on what is right and what is wrong. I pray that extends to other people that we all know, and that cascades down. There was a time where humanity was, it's always been broken, but there was a time where there was a little bit more congruency with people, spirituality, and you. I think we all here pray that there becomes some kind of congruency again, whatever that might look like, however that might manifest, but that the majority of us can begin to get on the same page, that we put these religious arguments and fights about non-essential garbage and bullshit to the side and begin to come together again in a meaningful way about things that matter, caring about people, looking after people. All people are pretty much the same. We just keep pitting ourselves against each other. So I pray for unity in the church, even if, like I always say, even if that means it needs to burn the hell down first. Burn it down, metaphorically, YouTube. Burn it down. Let us rebuild it. Let it be new. Let it be fresh. Let it be renewed into something that is entirely different and that actually, at least in some manner, begins to reflect what you are, who you are, and what you want again. Pray for everybody in the group who's going through a hard time. Anybody who feels like they're lonely, they're struggling, they're just going through it. It seems like a lot of people are at the moment. Honestly, it seems like a lot of people have for a while. So I just pray that you give people comfort, help people feel connected to you, again, whatever that might be like for that individual, and that we continue to be able to come together regardless of disagreements, regardless of how we may feel about each other's opinions on things. It's not important. The community is important. The love is important. The conversation, the growth, the expansion of the way that we all think is important. We pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Everybody have a beautiful, lovely evening. I will jump in Discord and do the things that I promised I would do here in just a few minutes. So I love you guys. I love you guys.